Welcome to the Unedited Woman, where you'll hear candid conversations to improve your everyday life. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Unedited Woman. My name is Ash Butterss and I'm here to guide you through a physical, emotional and spiritual makeover. Welcome everyone. So good to be back here for another solo episode. I have recently returned home from a 2-week holiday in Bali with my fiance, which was just awesome. I don't know what it is about Bali. I know that it is geographically on an energetic line that creates this sense of enhanced spiritual connection. But there's just something about the minute I get to Bali, the minute I put my feet onto the earth, I just feel so calm, so connected and present within my body. It's amazing. And the same thing happens to my fiance as well. It's just one of these really beautiful sacred places. I think I've been to Bali. I've actually lost count how many times. And it's funny because I remember going back after I'd gotten sober and not being sure if I'd have the same experience or what it would be like, if it would be really hard to be back there not drinking because I'd been there so many times in my drinking days. But I actually have found that I enjoy it even more now because I am so much more present to the subtleties and the beauty and the people and the culture and everything that Bali has to offer. It's such a special place. We ended up staying in 3 different locations while we were there this time. So we stayed in Canggu, which I've never actually stayed in Canggu before. I've been there to go to restaurants, but not to actually stay. And we definitely decided that it probably wasn't our vibe. It's so funny. I felt like I was so old in Canggu. I'm not sure why. Well, obviously it's because there's a lot of young people there. But I wouldn't exactly classify myself as old, but I felt old in Canggu, not gonna lie. But the restaurants, like I said, are amazing. So not sure if I'd stay there again, but it was still really cool. Then we went to Uluwatu and that was amazing. So we ended up staying at this incredible hotel called Umana, which is a Hilton hotel. And this was a really special moment for me because this was a treat that I was able to provide for my fiance and I as a celebration of my business and starting my business and getting through a full year of the new iteration of the business and being able to really celebrate that. So it felt really special to be able to spend 2 nights at that hotel and to experience that level of luxury was just incredible. The villa that we stayed at had these insane panoramic views of the ocean. The staff there were just so divine. The gym, they had like this state-of-the-art gym. And then next to the gym was this area where they had ice baths and saunas and spas, and oh my gosh, we had the best time there. It was amazing. I highly recommend that to anybody if you really want to treat yourself next time you visit Bali. And then after that we went to Ubud, which was really great. We were in Ubud for 5 nights and we did a lot of 12-step meetings while we were there. I also caught up with a friend of mine who just happened to be in Ubud for a wedding at the same time, and we ended up going to the yoga barn and trying aerial yoga for the first time, which was really, really cool. I have never tried it before. I didn't think I would be any good at it whatsoever, but I actually wasn't too bad. Funnily enough, I was like really comfortable flipping myself upside down and suspending in air. It's super challenging though, especially going into your standard like warrior 2 poses and having a leg elevated in the suspension band. It was definitely a new experience. I'm glad I tried it. I don't think I'm going to be building it into my day-to-day practice, but anyway, it was a really cool experience. And we had a beautiful time in Ubud as well. But you know what's really, really cool is coming home. We actually came home via Perth to attend a friend's wedding, which was really lovely. My girlfriend Taylor, who we became friends when I was living in Sydney, and she now lives in Melbourne. So that was really nice to be able to attend that. It was a very small, intimate wedding. And when I came home, I got to meet my brand new nephew who was born last Friday. So his name is Jock, and he is just absolutely delicious. And being an auntie for the second time is just such a gift. I am just so happy for my brother and my sister-in-law. It's a really, really special time, and he's just delicious. And then coming home and getting to see Frank, my little dog Frank, I can't tell you how much I missed him. He's just the best. And just coming back home and coming back into my day-to-day life, I realized how lucky I am in that I don't get home and have those holiday blues anymore, because I have built a life that I deeply love. And when I get to come back and I get to reconnect with my clients and my work and get back into creation mode and record the podcast and do all of the things that I love to do, like I really feel I'm in that flow state and I'm on my mission and my path of purpose, and it just feels really awesome. And I think that's, when you can intuitively tune into what you're doing in any point in time, and if you feel like you're in that flow state, then that is really a great indication that you're on the right path. So to be able to recognize the difference, because I can tell you right now, when I was working my 9-to-5 corporate job, I would come home from holidays and I would be so depressed for, at least a couple of days, if not a couple of weeks. And I don't experience that anymore because I love what I do, which is just so awesome. And that's, a result of all of the work that I've done over the last 4.5-5 years to get to this place. So speaking of my clients, I had a session with my mastermind women earlier today, the women who are in my Reclaim Her program, and we were talking about feminine embodiment, and it was such an awesome conversation. And I thought, you know what, I want to share it with all of you guys, because I think this is a conversation, a topic that is really prevalent right now. And I think there's a lot of different interpretations of what feminine embodiment looks like. And I think that we could all apply a little more feminine embodiment into our lives. Women these days are expected to really do it all. I know for pretty much every single one of my friends, they are not only mothers, but they are providers, they are working full-time, they are maintaining houses, they are the organizers of the household. Like, there is so much responsibility and so much pressure and so many unreasonable expectations that we put on ourselves as women that require us to live predominantly in our masculine. That energy that is all about striving, about efficiency, about getting things done, about being in control. And I'm not saying that those masculine traits are necessarily a bad thing. In fact, I think that they are incredibly important in certain parts of our lives. But what's equally important is to create that homeostasis, to have that balance of the masculine and the feminine, so that you can feel that beautiful, deep connection to self. So I want to chat a little bit about feminine embodiment today. So some of the things that we're going to cover on the podcast today is I'm going to talk to you about what feminine embodiment actually is, because like I said, there's a lot of different interpretations. I'm going to share with you what it looks like so that you can get an idea of perhaps feminine traits that you might already be embodying. Then we're going to talk about what it doesn't look like so that you can see perhaps where you might be disconnecting from your feminine. Then I'm going to talk to you about why it's so important and the benefits of living in your feminine self. Then we'll talk about some simple application tools so that you can start to, if you feel like maybe I am a little bit more in my masculine at the moment, you may apply one or two of these tools. Then we're going to talk about 4 really simple practices that you can implement. And we'll finish off with a little bit about reclaiming your power. How does that sound? Are we ready to go? Awesome. Let's dive into it. So, like I said, we're going to talk about what feminine embodiment actually is, because only a short while ago I was pretty uneducated around this topic, to be perfectly honest. And I am someone who has spent the majority of their life in their masculine. I would describe myself as being a perfectionist, having a type A personality. I'm somebody who has always had really high standards and put a lot of pressure on myself to achieve. And that requires me to spend a lot of time in my masculine. But what can happen is when you're living your life in the masculine, you can actually block yourself. So these energetic channels, these flow states that we look to live in, they become blocked when you're only living in your masculine. And that can create a lot of disconnection, a lot of discomfort, and it can also inhibit you from reaching your full potential. So when I'm talking about feminine embodiment, what I'm referring to is the practice of being deeply connected to and aware of mind, body, and emotions. It's this state of presence that is really grounded in the physical body and allows you to express your femininity. So when we are living from a state of feminine embodiment, we have this wisdom, this intuition, and this deep sense of connection to our emotions. And there's 4 key areas that I talk about when we look at whether or not we are experiencing and really living in a state of feminine embodiment. So the first one is presence in the body. Now, what this refers to is the practice of being fully aware and grounded in your physical experience, moment to moment. It's about tuning into your sensations, whether that's the feeling of your feet on the earth, maybe it's the rhythm of your breath in your chest or in your belly, or even like the tension and tightness in your muscles. This kind of presence allows you to inhabit your body in a way that fosters trust and connection within yourself. And rather than disassociating or numbing out when challenges arise, because they're going to, like that's just the nature of life, you can remain centered and open to the wisdom that your body offers. Our bodies are so wise. They are constantly communicating to us. The challenge is to actually have the attunement to be able to listen to those signals with compassion as well, because so often we may hear a signal and then we judge it and then we disregard it. So like really listening and tuning in with compassion and then creating a deeper and more authentic relationship with yourself. So presence in the body, number 1. The second point that I want to talk about is emotional awareness. So when we talk about emotional awareness, this is about recognizing and honoring and expressing your emotions as they arise, rather than what we often do, which is to suppress our emotions or to intellectualize them. So instead of labeling emotions as good or bad, embodied women start to see emotions as a natural energy that moves through the body. So there's no right or wrong. And by allowing yourself to feel your emotions fully, you can actually start to access a deeper understanding of your needs and your desires. And that also really helps you to create healthy boundaries. And we'll talk about that a little bit more a little bit later. Like, how do you actually intuitively set boundaries, which is a really powerful practice. This awareness helps to foster emotional intelligence, which then allows you to communicate more authentically and navigate life's challenges with so much more ease. And it's through this process that emotions become your friends rather than something that is negative or something that we need to avoid. You know, stereotypically, women have been labeled as having these really crazy big emotions and being really erratic and inconsistent. And that's not to say that we can't have those shades of color within our personality. In fact, I want you to embrace those, but I want you to really see your emotions as feedback rather than something that we need to suppress or numb or avoid. It's really your body trying to communicate to you. The next thing I want to talk about is sensory experience. So sensory experience is really so pivotal when it comes to feminine embodiment. This is about being in tune with all 5 senses. So it's your sight, it's your sound, it's touch, taste, and smell. These together create an anchor in the present moment. So if you're feeling heightened, if you're feeling dysregulated, then coming back to your 5 senses is a really beautiful grounding practice. So, I sometimes work with clients on a practice where If they're feeling dysregulated, I'll ask them to take a moment just to slow down, to pause, and to actually tell me what are the things that they can see. Then we look at what are the things you can smell, and you actually label them. You know, I can smell incense burning. I can smell food cooking, like whatever it is that you can smell in that moment. What are the things you can hear? What are the things you can taste? And of course, what are the things that you can physically touch? It might be, you know, just the sensation of you rubbing your hand on your thigh, or, you know, rubbing your shoulders, if you're havening, any of those sort of more sensory experiences. Maybe it's something as simple as the warmth of the sun on your skin, or the sound of someone's voice that you love. Really starting to tune into these senses and sensations and actually labeling them creates a deeper connection to self. And it's this heightened sense of awareness that helps you to cultivate a much richer, more vibrant existence, and really allows you to be present in the moment, which is a beautiful part of feminine embodiment. And then lastly, there's intuitive intelligence, which is one of my favorites. In my Reclaim Her program, we have a whole section on living intuitively, and to be able to do this requires a level of feminine embodiment. So what I'm talking about here is the natural wisdom that flows through us as women, this deep connection to our body and our emotions. Now, this is really that quiet inner voice that is guiding you, that is helping you to discern right from wrong, even when logic or external advice would suggest otherwise. Your intuition thrives when you listen and trust your body's intelligence. And in a world that often values logic over feeling, reclaiming your intuition is an act of empowerment, because it allows you to make choices that are aligned with your values, that honor your true self. So 4 key areas. There's presence in the body, emotional awareness, sensory experience, and intuitive intelligence. All right, so having an understanding of all of that, what does female embodiment actually look like? What are the key traits? And I want you to think about, on a scale of 1 to 10, where you think you sit with each of these currently, remembering that this isn't a process of judging or shaming ourselves. It's simply about creating awareness so that we see where we have the opportunity to grow and expand. So number 1, the trait for an embodied woman that we're looking for is authenticity. Now, what I'm talking about here is showing up as your true self, free from the masks that we wear, from the conditioning of society. And the question that I have for you around this is, what would you be doing if you were unafraid of the judgment of others? How would you be showing up in the world if you didn't care about what other people thought of you? And now ask yourself, how much am I living in alignment with that version of myself? That's authentic living. Number 2 is emotional resilience. So this is really about being able to feel and express a full range of emotions without shame. So, you know, I'll give you an example. Like, anger is something that as women, we're not really supported to feel and express. Maybe we're allowed to feel it, right? But we're certainly not allowed to express it. And then I think the stereotype for a male would be, you know, crying. You know, men don't cry, that old story. So when it comes to emotional resilience, it's about actually firstly having the emotional awareness, but then actually allowing yourself to process that emotion. So if it's anger, if it's rage, maybe you go and do a rage release process. Maybe you go into your bedroom, put on some music, some angry heavy metal music, and you punch a pillow for 5 minutes, because what we're doing here is we're then allowing the emotion to move through the body, and we're having a somatic release, which stops those channels from being blocked. The third thing is being connected and grounded. So really, this is all about connection to the body and feeling a sense of balance within the body. So to do this, we need to get connected to the earth. We are nature. Our body is this beautiful universal intelligence that is so, so wise, and it's forever communicating to us, but we need to be connected to it. And to do that, we need to ground. So a beautiful grounding practice is getting yourself outside and just putting your feet in the earth, closing down your eyes, feeling the air on your skin, smelling nature around you, feeling the sun on your skin if it's a beautiful warm day. All of those practices are really beautiful for grounding. And it can also be a really interesting practice to get to the end of the day and to ask yourself the question, for how much of the day was I actually present within my body? You know, was it for an hour? Was it 2 hours? Was it 5 minutes? And just looking to increase that day in and day out. Number 5 is sensuality. So this is different to sexuality, but embracing feminine sexuality is also really important. But what I'm talking about here is the 5 senses again. So throughout the day, how often are you actually connected to your senses? What you can touch, what you can taste, what you can smell, what you can see, what you can hear. And really allowing these 5 senses to be the gateway to pleasure, because it's such a pleasurable experience to actually be present to what is around us and to create a much deeper sense of connection to self. And then finally, I want to talk about flow and receptivity. So remember how I was talking about earlier that I know I'm in a flow state now because everything moves with ease in my life, whether I'm in my relationship, whether I'm with my family, whether I'm with my clients, whether I'm working. I always feel this really beautiful natural flow and ease because I'm aligned with my purpose. The way that you know if you're in your flow state is whether or not you're moving through life with a sense of ease and grace. And this really requires a deep level of surrender so that you're not trying to force things. And an example of this would be, you know, somebody who can gracefully set boundaries and really speak her truth and express her vulnerability without fear. A lot of the time, women spend their days in the masculine because to live in feminine requires a degree of vulnerability. It actually requires a lot of vulnerability. And vulnerability is uncertainty. And uncertainty is really scary. So I understand, because this is something that I journey as well. I really understand the desire to not want to be in your feminine because being vulnerable is really, really scary. But it's the element that is required for us to be able to drop into this feminine essence and to really experience the full array of color that life has to offer. So the 5 key areas, I want you to think about each of these, and then I want you to give yourself a little bit of a self-rating, a self-score. Number 1, authenticity. Number 2, emotional resilience. 3 is groundedness. 4 is sensuality. And 5 is flow and receptivity. So we've just talked about what it does look like. And now I want to talk about what it doesn't look like. So these might be some signs that you are disembodied or disconnected from your feminine essence. So number 1 would be disconnection from the physical body. This is that feeling of being checked out or detached from physical senses. So notice day to day whether you are being present or whether you are avoiding. And this may come up in work, it might come up in relationships, it might come up with self. Very closely related to this is my second point, which is all around numbness. If you find that you are numbing uncomfortable feelings or even just numbing your existence with things like alcohol, food, sex, relationships, social media, or work, then that can be a key indicator that you are disembodied, because what you're doing there is not allowing yourself to process your emotions in real time. And when we don't process our emotions in real time, they get stuck in the body, which then creates energetic blocks. So you cannot live in a flow state when you're energetically blocked. Number 3 is suppressed femininity. So somebody who is suppressing their femininity will lean into the masculine a lot more. And in adopting these masculine traits, it's often because we're trying to fit into society or to seek approval. We are disregarding our true selves, trying to get the approval of others. And when we do this, we ignore the feminine energy and we block ourselves from that softness, that subtlety, that creativity. There's also control is another key indicator that we're not in our feminine. So if you find that you are constantly trying to control everything and everyone around you, this is something that I used to do all the time before getting sober, that can be a really clear indicator that you're not in your feminine. This is where you are over-reliant on logic, you need structure, and you don't let yourself tap into your emotions or be spontaneous. So an example of this might be a woman who ignores her body's signals. Things like hunger. Like, do you go through the day and realize you haven't eaten? That would be an indicator that you're not listening to your hunger signals. Fatigue is another one that often women will tune out from. And this can often be from especially mothers, if they are the storyline of I've got too much to do, I can't rest. And then of course, stress is another key indicator when we're not attuned to our stress signals, and then we end up in burnout. This can also look like avoiding vulnerability, needing to appear strong at all times, and feeling unsafe showing your emotions. So have a little think about those 5. It was disconnection from the body, numbness, suppressing your femininity, having rigid control. Oh, and one I forgot to talk about, lack of creativity is another key sign that you are disconnected from your feminine, because creativity lives in our sacral chakra, which is Svadhisthana, and this is really the source for creation and inspiration. So I will often find that if I am doing a task and I feel blocked, like I can't tap into that creative energy, then I will do something to drop myself back into my feminine. It might be to go for a walk outside. It might be to move my body. Maybe it's a 10-minute guided meditation, something that will help me drop back into that essence so that I can then tap into that creativity again. So I want you to think about where you think you currently are, 1 out of 10. In regards to how often you're finding yourself leaning into these disconnection tools, these disembodiment practices. Okay, so we now understand what feminine energy looks like and what it doesn't look like, but I want to talk about why it's actually important to embrace feminine embodiment, because, you know, by all arguments, we could just move through life with masculine energy and we'd get a whole lot done, right? But there are some really beautiful benefits to actually allowing yourself to have this balance of masculine and feminine energy, and to allow yourself to come from a place of feminine embodiment. So the first one being that there is this beautiful healing that happens when we allow ourselves as women to spend time in our feminine essence. So often women are disconnected from their bodies, and this could be due to societal expectations, beauty standards, emotional suppression. But embodiment helps us to undo this conditioning. We also get to experience more emotional freedom when we're embodied with our feminine essence. And this is because we're allowing ourselves to process emotions in real time. And rather than having these emotions stay blocked in the body, which blocks us from our true path of purpose, we can move into that flow state because we're not getting this build up of energy in the body anymore. And it's amazing how much more present you can be with your family and your loved ones, and how much more you can show up in life when you allow yourself to express your emotions to their fullest, rather than suppressing them or ignoring them completely. There's also a really beautiful thing that happens to women when they embrace their femininity around confidence and self-worth. And I've found personally that as I've started to do more of this work around feminine embodiment, I've started to really develop a deep sense of love for myself and a much greater appreciation for the uniqueness of my feminine essence. You know, I used to think that being feminine was weak, and now I see it as my superpower. And I have to be so honest with you guys. When I take time to drop into my feminine, I actually get so much more done. Like, it is so counterintuitive to think that by taking time away from work to slow down, I'm actually going to get more done, but it's true. You know, I was sharing with my clients earlier that a few weeks ago, actually it was probably more like a couple of months ago now, God, time flies, I was moving through a season where I just felt really, really blocked emotionally. I couldn't cry. I had lost my creativity. It was showing up in my work. It was showing up in my relationship. And I knew that I needed an emotional release. I knew that I had to drop back into my body to be able to reconnect with my flow state. And so what I did was I actually blocked out my calendar for an afternoon. And I curated a playlist with songs that I knew would elicit an emotional response. And it was this 2-hour playlist. And I reckon it took me about an hour and a half before I finally cried. But I literally just put my yoga mat down. I came into my office, I turned off the lights, and I just laid there and allowed myself to fully drop into my body. I'm telling you right now, that was the last thing I wanted to do. I was like in full masculine energy, work harder, strive more, get more done. But if I chose to stay in that energetic state, I was going to continue to hit roadblocks because I was energetically blocked. It was in taking that time back to slow down, to soften, to connect with self that I was actually able to unblock that channel and fully step into my feminine, which allowed me to then unlock the creativity and the flow state again. So it does feel counterintuitive, but I promise you, it really, really works. There are, of course, incredible health benefits to living a more embodied life as well. So if you think about it, you will benefit physically when you're more connected to your body. You then benefit mentally because you have better mental health. And you benefit more emotionally because you have that emotional awareness, which we've spoken about a few times now. So all of this combined together allows you to regulate your nervous system more efficiently. It helps to reduce stress because you're actually in tune with the messages that the body is sending you, and you can actually use the body to help tell the mind to be able to reduce stress, slow down, lower cortisol, drop back into your parasympathetic nervous system, which also then allows for a more balanced hormone system as well. So really for women, this is so, so important. You know, we move through these monthly cycles, and having more intuition around your monthly cycle and your hormones is also going to improve your overall health and well-being. So heaps of benefits there. And then the final thing I want to talk about when it comes to what some of the incredible benefits are to living a more embodied life is this idea of empowerment, which I think is actually really closely linked to self-worth, which we just spoke about. But when you can start to live your life from a place of connection to self, when you're truly embodied, it allows you to really reclaim your voice, to actually stand up for what you believe in, to have this beautiful connection to your God-given intuition, to be guided by that, and to allow your intuition to influence your decisions and your actions. And when you're able to do this, that's when you're truly in alignment with your values, and that is when you're living a life that is connected to your purpose. And so if you're sitting here listening to all of this and you've clearly identified that there is some room for improvement, let's say, you know that you're slipping back into your masculine or you're just disconnecting from the feminine, then I want to share with you some really great tools that can help you to tap into that feminine essence. So the first one is breath work. Now, you guys know I'm a big fan of breath work. I love facilitating breath work, and I love guiding my clients through breath work practices, whether that's my one-on-one clients, my group clients, or even in my yoga classes. Now, breath work can be really simple. Something like a pranayama practice where you're doing a box breath, and I've spoken about that in earlier episodes if you want to go back and have a listen. Or maybe it's a little more complex. Maybe you're doing a breakthrough breathwork session, which will really help you to tap into that blocked emotion, the stored trauma within the body. Either way, releasing this energy helps to allow the emotions to move through the body. So breathwork is a really powerful practice for that. Then you've got somatic movement. So anything like yoga or even dancing, you'd be amazed at the power of moving your body, even if it's just for a short period of time. Maybe you don't have time to get outside and go for a 30-minute walk, but you still feel that you're a bit blocked. You can put on some of your favorite music and just get yourself up out of your chair and move your body, shake your body. The energy will flow through you, and I guarantee you will be in a different emotional state than from when you started that practice. It doesn't have to be long, but I want you to give that one a go. Then, of course, we have our mindfulness and meditation, which is really powerful. I believe that when you quieten the mind, that's when you truly connect to your essence. And that's where your intuition lies. So whether it's a guided meditation, whether it's a silent meditation, taking time to come back to self, to sit with discomfort, and to deepen that relationship with self is so, so powerful if you want to enhance the feminine essence within your life. Then there's a practice that I like to call sensual awakening rituals. Now, these can be more on the sexual flavor, or they can be more related to enhancing the senses that we've already talked about. And there's a beautiful practice that I love to guide my clients with, which is around body massage. So, you get out of the shower and you generally just slap on your moisturizer, right? Just get it on the body. What if you were to just take a few moments to actually really tune into the sensation of touch as you apply the cream onto your body? Maybe you get some coconut oil or some sweet almond oil, and you allow this to be a ritual. You allow yourself to actually feel into the experience of applying the oil onto your body. Touch is so, so powerful. As humans, we really are drawn to physical touch. And so giving yourself that act of self-care and self-love can be really, really healing and really, really powerful. Journaling is another favorite practice of mine, because this really allows you to reflect on your emotions and your sensations as they come up throughout the day. Actually writing them down fosters and cultivates that mind-body connection and enhances self-awareness. The more that you journal, the more connected you are to self, the more you can be a witness and an observer to your thoughts, your experiences, your actions. And this is really, I believe, the key to changing the direction of your life, because if you're stuck on autopilot and you're not taking time to actually reflect, then you'll continue to repeat the same patterns and behaviors. This is why journaling is such a potent practice, and one that I recommend for all my clients to do. I also want to touch on plant medicine. I'm going to talk about cacao because I'm in recovery and I absolutely love cacao. Of course, there are other plant medicines, which if that's your cup of tea, you want to go down that, then by all means you can explore different plant medicines like ayahuasca and mushrooms. But I've only had experience with cacao, and this for me is such a powerful medicine because it is all about heart opening. So cacao actually activates anahata, which is the heart chakra, and really creates this expansion within the heart space. So whether you are doing this alone, I will make myself cacao throughout the week, or whether you're doing this in ceremony, it's such a beautiful experience to foster that connection to self and the feminine energy as well. And then the last one I want to talk about is sacred feminine circles. There is so much power and healing in community. I saw this firsthand at the Radiant Woman event that I ran a couple of months ago, when I had a room full of women sharing their stories, journeying together. There was so much healing and evolution that happened over those 2 days. Every time I get together with my clients in the Reclaim Her program, the same things happens. So find your tribe, find your women, allow yourself to be open, to share stories and to support one another. It is such a potent experience, and something that I think is so underestimated these days. We spend so much of our life alone or in silo, but coming together in community with other women is so, so powerful. So I'd love for you guys to have a try at implementing one or two of these practices throughout the week and to see what difference it makes. And please let me know how you go with these, because I absolutely love to hear what experiences people have, especially if you're trying something new for the first time. Like maybe you haven't tried cacao before, maybe you have never tried one of those sensual massage application techniques before. Give them a go and let me know. Reach out to me on Instagram. I'd love to hear how you find those tools. And the last thing I want to share with you, we've talked about different tools that you can pull out of your toolkit, but there's also some practices that are really simple that you can just implement into your daily life. Now, sometimes when I'm working with clients, I like to give them more structured routine. But the great thing with these daily practices is they're very simple, and they're not going to feel overwhelming or like it's another thing that you have to add into your already extensive morning, daily, weekly routine. So the first one is a morning body scan. Now, this is super simple. All you need to do is when you wake up, before you open your eyes, just take 5 minutes to scan through the body, really feeling into if there's any tension that's being stored within the body. So you start down at your tiptoes, and then you slowly make your way up, all the way up to the crown of the head. And what you'll probably notice is that there is some tension, whether that's physical, energetic, or emotional. There's probably some tension that's being stored somewhere in the body. So I want you to really tune into that, and then use your breath as a vehicle to create space. So take a deep breath in through the nose. And then as you exhale, you breathe out into the area where you're feeling that tension, allowing yourself to soften. When you exhale, the muscles relax and you create more space within the body. So that's a really beautiful practice. It's just 5 minutes in the morning. Another practice that you can implement is intuitive eating. So when we're connected to our bodies, we are in tune with our hunger cues. Conversely, when we're disconnected from our bodies, this is one of the first things to go. So if you're somebody who gets to the end of the day and has forgotten to eat, then that would be a clear indication that you're disconnected from those hunger cues. So you might just make a little note throughout the day of what hunger cues you're experiencing, and as well, when you're eating, noticing when you get full. So that's another really simple practice that you can start implementing straight away. The third one I want to talk about is boundary setting. So we spoke earlier about this idea that when you are more connected to your intuition, you can actually allow this to guide your decision making. And this is what living intuitively is all about, which is a core principle to the Reclaim Her process. So when you practice listening to your body's signals, when you feel into that sensation of something doesn't quite feel right. I know we've all been there before, right? You've got that kind of knot in the stomach, you know it's not right, and yet you make the decision to go ahead and do it anyway, maybe because you've got some people-pleasing tendencies or you want approval from everyone else. What you're doing in that instance is you're abandoning yourself. So I really want to empower you to actually use those intuitive cues and signals to form your decisions so that you can create more awareness and actually set healthy boundaries. It might feel uncomfortable if you're not used to doing this, but I promise you over time, it really starts to build a level of self-trust within yourself that is so, so powerful. And then the final practice that you can start implementing today is a senses gratitude practice. So this is something that I like to do at the end of the day. And what it looks like is just 5 minutes at the end of the day, giving thanks to the moments throughout the day that allowed you to connect to your senses. So it might have been something really simple like feeling the sun on your skin as you were driving into work, or maybe it was enjoying a really delicious meal and it was the taste of the meal that you're practicing gratitude for. Try your best to come up with one for each of the 5 senses, but if you don't, that's okay as well. But it's just a way to, again, start to enhance the connection to the physical body, the senses, and in doing so, the present moment. So that's everything that I want to share with you today. I hope that it's been really helpful. I definitely wanted to make sure that I gave you some tangible tools that you could start to practice and some simple practical techniques that you could start doing straight away that weren't going to take too much time. The most important message that I want to leave you with, though, is that feminine embodiment is not about perfection. It's about presence. And by embracing the body, your emotions, and your intuition, you will be able to tap into such a deep source of wisdom and power. We all have this within ourselves, and yet we're so disconnected from it because our focus is outward. I want you to really think about coming back to self and turning your awareness inward. We live in a world these days that is all about disconnection and distraction. So choosing embodiment really is an act of rebellion and an act of self-love. And so as you journey this process, let go of the expectation, let go of the need to do it perfectly, and just keep coming back to what feels right for you. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for being here with me once again. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so by going over and hitting the follow button, leaving a 5-star review, and I will see you here next week. Thanks everyone. Bye for now.